The Eclipse Voyager drifted silently through the vast emptiness of space, its sleek metallic hull glinting faintly under the distant light of a dying star. Inside, the crew moved about their duties with practiced efficiency, each person focused on the mission ahead. The ship was not just any vessel. It was humanity's most advanced tool for exploring the unknown, designed to withstand the harshest conditions and equipped with cutting-edge technology that could analyze even the tiniest details of alien environments. Captain Ryan Hayes stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back as he gazed out at the swirling nebula before them. It was beautiful, a kaleidoscope of colors and shapes that seemed almost alive. Wisps of gas twisted and curled like smoke caught in a breeze, while bursts of energy flickered unpredictably within its depths. The nebula had been their destination for months, ever since Earth Command sent word of strange readings emanating from this uncharted region of space. Rumors suggested it might hold ancient, alien artifacts, remnants of civilizations long gone. If true, this could be one of humanity's greatest discoveries. Behind him, Dr. Laura Miller leaned over a console, her sharp eyes scanning lines of data scrolling across the screen. She was the ship's chief scientist, a woman whose curiosity often led her into debates with the more cautious members of the crew. Her dark hair was tied back neatly, though strands escaped here and there, framing her face as she worked. "It's incredible," she murmured half to herself. "These energy signatures don't match anything we've seen before. They're organic somehow." Jake Turner, the ship's engineer, snorted from where he sat nearby, tinkering with a malfunctioning panel. His broad shoulders hunched forward as he pried open a compartment, revealing a tangle of wires and circuits. "Organic? You mean like plants or something?" He glanced up briefly, his tone teasing but good-natured. Jake was practical to a fault, always preferring simple explanations over wild theories. Still, his skills were unmatched when it came to fixing problems no one else could solve. Laura rolled her eyes but couldn't suppress a small smile. "Not exactly, I'm saying. These patterns behave like living organisms, adapting, reacting. It's fascinating." Emily Dawson, the communications specialist, chimed in from her station. She adjusted her headset, her fingers flying over the controls as she monitored incoming signals. Unlike the others, Emily preferred quieter moments, finding solace in the hum of machinery and the rhythm of radio waves. "Fascinating or not, we should stay alert," she said softly. "We're venturing into unexplored territory. Who knows what's waiting for us?" Ryan nodded, turning away from the viewport. "She's right. Stay sharp, everyone. This mission is important not just for us but for all of humanity." His voice carried authority, yet there was warmth beneath it, a reminder that he trusted his team implicitly. At 38, Ryan had spent years commanding ships like the Eclipse Voyager, earning respect not only for his leadership but also for his ability to make tough decisions under pressure. For now, everything seemed calm. But that changed abruptly when Emily's console beeped sharply. She froze, staring at the screen as lines of text scrolled rapidly. "Captain," she called out, her voice steady despite the sudden tension in the air. "We're receiving a transmission from Earth Command." Ryan frowned. A message from Earth was unusual this far out. Communication delays meant messages were typically pre-scheduled, not urgent interruptions. "Put it on speaker," he ordered. The room fell silent as static crackled through the speakers. Then, a voice emerged, clipped and formal. "Attention, Eclipse Voyager. This is Earth Command Priority Channel Alpha. Cease all operations immediately and prepare for return trajectory to Sol system. Further instructions will follow upon your arrival. Do not engage with local phenomena under any circumstances. Repeat, do not engage." The words hung heavy in the air, leaving the crew stunned. Finally, Jake broke the silence. "What the hell does that mean? Do not engage? We're already here." Laura crossed her arms, her brow furrowed in thought. They must have discovered something new about this area. Maybe they've detected danger we haven't. Ryan shook his head slowly. "Danger or not, we can't just turn around without knowing why. There's too much at stake. He turned to Emily. Can you confirm the source of the message? She hesitated, typing quickly. It's authentic, Captain. Encrypted with top-level clearance. Whatever this is, it's serious. Serious enough to pull them back from the brink of discovery? Ryan didn't like it. He gestured for the senior staff to gather around the central table. Let's talk this through. Laura, Jake, Emily, what are your thoughts? Laura spoke first. From a scientific perspective, retreating feels like a mistake. These readings are unprecedented. If we leave now, we risk losing the chance to understand something potentially world-changing. Jake scratched the back of his neck, clearly torn. I get that. But if Earth Command says there's trouble, we'd be idiots to ignore them. They wouldn't send a message like this unless they had a damn good reason. Emily added quietly, and what if the danger isn't physical? What if it's psychological, or worse, ethical? What if engaging with whatever's out there puts us in a position we can't handle? Ryan listened carefully, weighing each argument. He knew his decision would affect not only the mission but the morale of the entire crew. After a moment, he straightened, his expression firm. Here's what we're going to do. We'll proceed cautiously, keeping a safe distance until we gather more information. If things escalate, we'll reassess. But I won't abandon this mission based on vague warnings alone. The others exchanged glances, some relieved, others uneasy. Jake grinned despite himself. Well, at least it's not boring. As the meeting dispersed, Laura lingered behind, watching Ryan closely. You're taking a big risk, Captain. Are you sure about this? He met her gaze, his jaw tightening slightly. No, I'm not sure. But sometimes risks are necessary. If we let fear dictate every move we make, we'll never grow as a species. Laura nodded slowly, though doubt lingered in her eyes. Just promise me one thing. If it gets bad, you'll listen to reason. I always do, Ryan replied, though neither of them sounded entirely convinced. Over the next few hours, the crew prepared to enter the nebula, running final checks on systems and ensuring everyone was ready for whatever lay ahead. Tension filled the air, mingling with excitement and uncertainty. For all their training and experience, none of them truly knew what awaited them beyond the glowing mists. When the Eclipse Voyager finally crossed the threshold, the change was immediate. The ship shuddered slightly, buffeted by unseen forces. Lights dimmed and brightened erratically, and instruments began displaying anomalies that defied explanation. Emily gripped her console tightly, trying to filter through the chaos of signals, flooding in. Something's interfering with our systems, she reported, her voice strained. I can't pinpoint the source. Ryan clenched his fists, his earlier confidence wavering. Had Earth Command been right to warn them? Was this place truly hostile? But then, amidst the confusion, something extraordinary happened. A beam of light shot past the ship, illuminating the darkness like a flare. At its center floated an enormous structure, a cathedral-like construct made of shimmering metal and pulsating energy. It radiated an aura of both beauty and menace, drawing the crew's attention irresistibly. Laura gasped, her earlier skepticism melting away. That's impossible. Jake whistled low. Looks like we found our artifact. Ryan stared at the site, his mind racing. Whatever this was, it wasn't natural. And judging by the way the ship's systems continued to falter, it wasn't friendly either. Yet there was no denying the allure of the unknown. Humanity had come so far to reach this point. To turn back now would feel like surrender. All right, team, Ryan said finally, his voice cutting through the awed silence. Whatever happens next, we stick together. Let's find out what this thing wants, and whether we can trust it. With those words, the Eclipse Voyager pressed onward, drawn inexorably toward the heart of the mystery. The Eclipse Voyager hovered cautiously near the massive construct, its glowing surface pulsating with an otherworldly rhythm. The crew stared in awe at the alien structure, their excitement tinged with unease. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, a fusion of architecture and energy that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Towering spires stretched upward, shimmering as if alive, while intricate patterns danced across its surface like waves on an ocean. Dr. Laura Miller leaned closer to her console, her fingers flying over the controls as she analyzed every detail. Her voice was filled with wonder. It's not just a building, it's alive. Or at least it behaves like it. Look at these readings. The energy signatures are shifting constantly, adapting to our presence. Jake Turner, ever the skeptic, crossed his arms and raised an eyebrow. Adapting? You mean like it knows we're here? It's possible, Laura replied, her tone serious. This thing could be some kind of artificial intelligence, or maybe even a living organism. Either way, it's far beyond anything humanity has created. Emily Dawson adjusted her headset, scanning for any signs of communication. If it's intelligent, shouldn't we try talking to it? Sending a signal, maybe? Ryan Hayes nodded thoughtfully. Good idea. Emily, send out a standard greeting. Simple, non-threatening. Let's see if it responds. Emily typed quickly, encoding a message in multiple frequencies and languages. Message sent, Captain. Now we wait. Moments passed, but there was no reply. Instead, the construct began to emit a low hum, growing louder and more intense. The vibrations rattled through the ship, making everyone uneasy. Then, without warning, a voice boomed through the speakers, not as sound waves, but directly into their minds. You do not belong here. Leave now, or face the consequences. The words echoed in their heads, sharp and commanding. Laura gasped, clutching her temples while Jake instinctively reached for a nearby railing to steady himself. Ryan stood frozen, his eyes wide with shock. What the hell was that? Jake muttered, his usual bravado faltering. That, Laura said, her voice trembling slightly, was telepathic communication. Whoever, or whatever, that is, it's communicating directly with our thoughts. Ryan recovered quickly, stepping forward. We come in peace, he said aloud, though he wasn't sure if the entity could hear him. We mean no harm, we're explorers seeking knowledge. The response came instantly, colder and more menacing than before. Your intentions are irrelevant. Your presence disrupts the balance. Leave or I will remove you. Jake frowned, irritation replacing fear. Remove us? What does that even mean? Listen, buddy, we didn't fly all this way just to get chased off by some cosmic bully. Laura shot him a warning glance. Jake, don't provoke it. But Jake ignored her, his frustration boiling over. Look, whoever you are, we're not leaving until we understand what's going on here. So either explain yourself, or… Silence, the voice thundered, cutting him off mid-sentence. The construct pulsed brighter, its light flooding the bridge of the Eclipse Voyager. You are children playing with forces you cannot comprehend. Turn back or suffer the consequences. The crew exchanged nervous glances. Even Ryan, usually calm under pressure, felt a knot of dread tighten in his stomach. Whatever this entity was, it wasn't bluffing. But retreat wasn't an option. Not yet. Ryan took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. We respect your warning, but we can't leave without understanding why you've chosen to guard this place. If you'll allow us to communicate peacefully, we'd like to learn more about you and perhaps find a way to coexist. There was a long pause, during which the construct's glow dimmed slightly. Then the voice returned, softer but still firm. I am Aetheris, guardian of this realm. This nebula houses remnants of my creator's civilization. To protect it, I must eliminate threats. You are a threat. Laura stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. Aetheris, we're not here to destroy or steal. We're explorers driven by curiosity. If you let us prove ourselves, we might be able to help preserve what remains of your creator's legacy. Aetheris hesitated, the patterns on its surface shifting rapidly. Prove yourselves? How? Jake smirked, leaning against a nearby console. How about we show you what humans are made of? We've got skills, technology, and a knack for solving problems. Give us a chance and we won't disappoint. Ryan shot Jake another warning look but decided to play along. Exactly. Let us prove our worth, Aetheris. Trust us and we'll earn that trust. For several tense moments, Aetheris remained silent. The construct's glow flickered, as if weighing the proposal. Finally, The voice spoke again. Very. Well, I will grant you one opportunity. Fail, and I will act accordingly. Before anyone could respond, the construct emitted a burst of energy that enveloped the Eclipse Voyager. Alarms blared as systems went haywire. Lights flickered, panels sparked, and gravity fluctuated wildly. The crew stumbled, struggling to maintain their footing. "What's happening?" Emily shouted, gripping her station tightly. "It's probing. Us," Laura exclaimed, frantically analyzing the data streaming in. "It's scanning the ship, testing our defenses." Ryan gripped the edge of the central table, shouting orders. "Everyone, hold on. Jake, stabilize the engines. Emily, monitor. Communications, Laura, keep tracking those scans." Jake scrambled to his feet, already pulling tools from his belt. He cursed under his breath as he opened a panel, revealing a tangled mess of wires. Sparks flew as he worked, his hands moving with practiced speed. "This thing's messing with our core systems. If we don't fix it soon, we're toast." Meanwhile, Emily fought to filter through the flood of signals bombarding the ship. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange. It's like code, embedded in the energy bursts. Maybe it's trying to interface with us." Laura nodded furiously, her eyes glued to her screen. "She's right. It's not just attacking, it's learning, adapting. It's trying to figure us out." Ryan clenched his jaw, realizing the situation was far more complex than he'd anticipated. Aetheris wasn't simply a hostile force, it was intelligent, methodical, and relentless. They needed a plan, and fast. "Jake," Ryan called out, raising his voice above the chaos. "Can you redirect the energy surges, use them to power our shields instead of letting them tear us apart?" Jake paused, considering the suggestion. "It's risky, but it might work. I'll need help rerouting the circuits." "I'm on it," Laura said, rushing to join him. Together they worked feverishly, their movements synchronized despite the pandemonium around them. Sweat dripped down Jake's forehead as he connected wires and adjusted settings, muttering instructions to Laura. On the bridge, Ryan kept watch, his mind racing. If they survived this encounter, they'd need to rethink their approach. Fighting Aetheris outright wasn't an option, it was too powerful. But surrender wasn't acceptable either. There had to be a middle ground. Suddenly the ship jolted, violently throwing everyone off balance. The lights dimmed, plunging the bridge into near darkness. For a moment it seemed as though the Eclipse Voyager would succumb to the assault. Then, miraculously, the system stabilized. The humming ceased, and the construct's glow softened. Aetheris's voice returned, calmer now, but still wary. "Impressive, you have adapted. Few species possess such resilience." Ryan exhaled sharply, relief washing over him. "Does this mean we've earned your trust?" "Not entirely," Aetheris replied, "but you have proven resourceful. For now I will allow you to remain. However, know this. Further disruptions will not be tolerated." As the construct's presence faded, the crew slumped in exhaustion. Jake wiped his brow, grinning despite himself. "Well, that was fun. Anyone else feel like taking a nap?" Laura shook her head, though a small smile tugged at her lips. "Fun isn't the word I'd use, but we survived. That's something." Ryan turned to his team, pride evident in his expression. "Good work, everyone. We've taken the first step toward understanding Aetheris. Now, let's make sure we don't screw it up." Over the next few hours, the crew regrouped, repairing damaged systems and reviewing the data collected during the encounter. Laura pored over the information, fascinated by the complexity of Aetheris's design. "It's incredible," she murmured. "This thing is self-aware, adaptive, and capable of manipulating matter and energy on a scale we can barely comprehend." Jake joined her, leaning against a nearby console. Yeah, it's amazing, but how do we deal with it? Talking nice only goes so far when the other guy's packing enough firepower to vaporize us." "That's where strategy comes in," Ryan interjected, joining the conversation. "We can't fight Aetheris head-on, but we can negotiate. Show it that we're willing to cooperate, not conquer." "And if that doesn't work?" Jake asked. Pointedly. Ryan hesitated, then met his gaze squarely. "Then we adapt, just like we did today. Humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to overcome challenges, no matter how impossible they seem." The words hung in the air, bolstering the crew's resolve. Though the road ahead was uncertain, they knew one thing for sure. They weren't giving up. Not now, not ever. The Eclipse Voyager floated silently in the shadow of Aetheris, its system slowly recovering from the earlier assault. The crew worked tirelessly to repair damage and recalibrate instruments, their movements deliberate but tinged with unease. Though Aetheris had granted them temporary permission to stay, no one doubted that the entity was still watching, judging their every move. Dr. Laura Miller sat hunched over her console, her eyes scanning reams of data collected during the encounter. She chewed her lip thoughtfully, her mind racing to piece together the puzzle of Aetheris. "It's not just a guardian," she muttered aloud, half to herself. "It's connected to this nebula, like it's part of it." Jake Turner leaned against a nearby wall, arms crossed as he listened. His usual bravado had faded, replaced by a rare moment of seriousness. "Connected how? You mean like it controls the nebula? Or it is the nebula?" Laura shook her head, frustration evident in her expression. "I'm not sure yet. But look at these energy patterns. They're flowing between Aetheris and the surrounding space. It's almost like it's feeding off the nebula, using its energy to sustain itself." Emily Dawson walked over, holding a tablet filled with fragmented signals they'd intercepted during the attack. "And what about those bursts of energy it sent our way? They weren't random. I think it was trying to communicate, not just with words, but through those pulses." Ryan Hayes joined them, his brow furrowed as he processed their findings. "So, we're dealing with something that's alive, intelligent, and capable of manipulating both energy and matter. Great. Any ideas on how we convince it we're not a threat?" Jake snorted. "Short of handing over the keys to the ship and promising never to come back?" "Nope." Laura ignored him, her focus narrowing on a particular set of readings. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, isolating a sequence of data that caught her attention. "Wait a second, this is strange. These energy signatures, like they match some of the tech schematics buried in our archives. Ancient alien designs, stuff we've only seen fragments of before." Ryan stepped closer, his curiosity piqued. "You're saying Aetheris has tech similar to what we've studied?" "Not exactly," Laura replied, her voice tinged with excitement. "It's more advanced, way beyond anything we've encountered. But there are similarities, enough to suggest it might be compatible with our systems." Jake raised an eyebrow, skepticism creeping into his tone. "Compatible how? You're not suggesting we try to hack into it, are you?" Laura hesitated, glancing at Ryan. "Not hack, exactly. More like interface. If we can tap into its energy matrix, maybe we can understand it better. Maybe even negotiate on equal terms." Ryan frowned, weighing the risks. "That sounds dangerous. What if it sees it as an attack?" "It could be," Laura admitted. "But think about it. If we can prove we're capable of understanding its technology, maybe it'll see us as equals instead of threats." Jake threw up his hands. "Or it fries us where we stand. Either way, count me out of the suicide mission." Ryan ignored him, turning back to Laura. "Do you think it's possible? Could we actually pull this off without getting ourselves killed?" Laura nodded slowly. "If we're careful, yes. We'd need Jake's expertise, though. Someone who can modify our systems to handle the energy flow without frying everything." Jake groaned, rubbing his temples. "Of course you'd drag me into this. Fine, I'll do it. But if this goes sideways, I'm blaming you." With the plan decided, the team got to work. Laura guided Jake through the process of adapting the ship systems while Emily monitored communications for any signs of Aetheris reacting. The task was painstaking, requiring precision and patience. Hours passed as they tweaked circuits, rewrote code, and tested connections, all while keeping one eye on the looming construct outside. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Jake stepped back, wiping grease from his hands. "All right, it's ready. Or as ready as it's gonna get. Let's hope this doesn't blow us all to kingdom come." Ryan took a deep breath, steeling himself for what came next. "Activate it." Laura entered the final command, and the ship hummed with newfound energy. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the consoles lit up with streams of unfamiliar data, flowing faster than anyone could process. Patterns shifted and rearranged themselves, forming intricate diagrams that seemed to pulse with life. "This is incredible," Laura whispered, her voice filled with awe. "We're inside its system. It's letting us see everything." Jake stared at the screens, his jaw dropping slightly. "Holy crap, is this blueprints? Actual alien tech blueprints?" "More than that," Laura said, her excitement growing. "It's showing us how it works, how it thinks. This isn't just a machine, it's a living network." Ryan watched silently, his mind racing. If they could decipher this information, they might gain insights that could change humanity forever. But as he scanned the data, something else caught his eye. A section labeled with symbols unlike anything they'd seen before. "What's this?" he asked, pointing to the screen. Laura leaned in, her brow furrowing as she analyzed the sequence. I don't know. It's separate from the rest of the system, almost like a hidden layer." Jake squinted at the display. "Hidden layer? You mean like a secret weapon or something?" "Maybe," Laura said cautiously. "Or maybe it's a failsafe, something Aetheris uses to protect itself." Before they could investigate further, the ship shuddered violently. Alarms blared as the lights flickered and the hum of energy grew louder, more intense. Aetheris's voice echoed in their minds once again, sharp and accusing. "You dare tamper with my essence? This is unacceptable." Ryan acted quickly, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "Aetheris, wait. We didn't mean to intrude. We were only trying to understand you better." The construct pulsed angrily, its glow intensifying. "Understanding does not justify violation. Your actions have consequences." Jake cursed under his breath, scrambling to disconnect the interface. Yeah, big guy, we get it. No harm done, okay? Just let us turn this thing off." But Laura stopped him, her eyes wide with realization. "No, wait, look." She pointed to the screens, where the hidden layer had begun to expand, revealing lines of code and schematics unlike anything they'd ever imagined. This is incredible. It's offering us something." Ryan frowned, unsure whether to trust her instincts. "What do you mean, offering?" Laura's voice trembled with excitement. "It's giving us access to its core systems, not just the surface stuff, the real power behind it." "Aetheris is testing us again." Jake stared at her, incredulous. "Testing us by throwing us into its death trap of a computer?" "Yeah, thanks, pal." Despite the danger, Ryan felt a spark of determination. If Aetheris was willing to share its secrets, they couldn't pass up the opportunity. "Laura, can we stabilize the connection? Can we use this to show it we're worthy?" She nodded, already typing furiously. "Yes, but we'll need to act fast. If we overload the system, it could shut us out, or worse." The crew worked together, channeling the incoming data into the ship's processors while carefully managing the energy flow. Jake sweated over the engineering panel, rerouting power to prevent a meltdown, while Emily kept a watchful eye on external sensors. The tension in the air was palpable, each second stretching endlessly as they fought to maintain control. Finally, after what felt like hours, the surge subsided. The screen stabilized, displaying a single message written in glowing text. "Divine. Mode initiated." "What the hell does that mean?" Jake demanded, his voice hoarse from shouting over the alarms. Laura's eyes sparkled with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. "It means, we did it. Aetheris has upgraded us." As the words sank in, the Eclipse Voyager began to transform. Its hull shimmered with the same pulsating light as Aetheris, and new interfaces appeared throughout the ship. Panels lit up with options and capabilities far beyond anything they'd designed. Gravity shifted, engines hummed with untapped power, and the very fabric of space around them seemed to bend and warp. Ryan stared at the changes, his mind struggling to comprehend what had just happened. "Is this safe?" Laura shook her head, her expression torn between wonder and concern. "I don't know. This kind of technology, it's divine, like the name suggests. It's beyond human understanding. We've unlocked potential we may not be ready for. Jake let out a low whistle, running his hand along a newly formed console. Well, one thing's for sure. We're not flying a regular spaceship anymore. This thing's practically a god now. Ryan turned to his crew, his expression resolute, despite the uncertainty. Then we'd better learn how to use it responsibly, because if we don't, we risk losing everything we've worked for, and possibly more. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of their discovery settling heavily on their shoulders. They had gained unimaginable power, but with it came responsibility, and the knowledge that Aetheris would be watching closely. Whatever happened, next they knew one thing for certain. The Eclipse Voyager had been forever changed, and so had they. The Eclipse Voyager floated in the nebula, its newly upgraded systems glowing faintly with an otherworldly light. The crew moved cautiously through the ship, their footsteps echoing softly against the hum of unfamiliar energy coursing through every panel and console. It was as though the vessel itself had come alive, responding to their presence with a quiet intelligence that none of them fully understood. Captain Ryan Hayes stood on the bridge, staring at the glowing construct of Aetheris in the distance. His mind raced with questions. What did it mean to wield this kind of power? Had they crossed a line by accepting the upgrade? Or had Aetheris seen something in them worth trusting? He clenched his fists tightly, trying to push aside the unease, building in his chest. Dr. Laura Miller sat nearby, her eyes glued to the screens displaying streams of data from the ship's new systems. Her excitement was palpable, but so was her fear. "This is, incredible," she murmured, her voice trembling slightly. "These capabilities are beyond anything humanity has ever dreamed of. Faster than light travel without time dilation, localized gravity fields, even the ability to manipulate matter at a molecular level." Jake Turner leaned over her shoulder, squinting at the numbers and symbols scrolling across the display. Yeah, it's amazing, but also terrifying. You're telling me we can basically rewrite the laws of physics now? What happens if we screw up? Laura hesitated, her enthusiasm dimming slightly. That's the thing. We don't know. This isn't just advanced technology, it's divine-level stuff. One wrong move and we could tear apart this entire nebula. Or worse. Emily Dawson adjusted her headset, listening intently for any signals from Aetheris. So far there had been silence since the upgrade. "Do you think it's testing us?" she asked quietly. "Giving us this power to see what we'll do with it?" Ryan nodded slowly, his gaze still fixed on the distant construct. "It has to be. Aetheris didn't give us this upgrade out of kindness. It's watching, waiting to see if we can handle it responsibly." Jake snorted, crossing his arms. "Great. So we've got some cosmic babysitter judging our every move. No pressure or anything." Despite the tension, Ryan couldn't help but smile faintly. "Exactly, which means we need to prove ourselves. Use this power wisely, not just for survival, but to show Aetheris that humanity deserves a place among the stars." Hours passed as the crew experimented cautiously with the new systems. Jake worked tirelessly in the engineering bay, tweaking controls and stabilizing power flows to prevent overload. Laura analyzed the data pouring in, piecing together how the upgrades interfaced with the ship's original design. Emily monitored communications, ensuring no unexpected threats emerged from the nebula. But as they delved deeper into the possibilities of divine mode, cracks began to form within the team. Laura grew increasingly obsessed with understanding the full extent of the upgrades, often losing track of time as she pored over schematics. Jake, meanwhile, became more vocal about his concerns, arguing that they were playing with forces far beyond human comprehension. "This isn't just dangerous, it's reckless," he snapped during one heated discussion on the bridge. "We're not gods no matter what this ship thinks. If we keep pushing these limits, we're going to get ourselves killed." Laura shot him a sharp look. "And doing nothing is better? We have a chance to unlock secrets that could change everything for humanity. Are you really saying we should turn our backs on that?" "I'm saying we need to slow down," Jake shot back, his voice rising. "You saw what happened when we tried interfacing with Aetheris before. This whole ship nearly fell apart. Now you want to go even further?" Ryan stepped between them, raising his hands to calm the argument. Enough. Both of you make valid points, but fighting isn't going to solve anything. Yes, this power is dangerous, but it's also an opportunity, one we can't afford to waste. He turned to Laura. Continue your research, but prioritize safety. We can't risk destabilizing the ship or the nebula. Then he addressed Jake. And you're right. We need to proceed carefully. Work with Laura to set boundaries for what we test and how far we push these systems. Together, we'll find a balance. The two scientists exchanged reluctant nods, though the tension lingered. Ryan sighed inwardly, knowing this was only the beginning of the challenges they'd face. As the days stretched on, Aetheris finally made contact again. Its voice resonated through their minds, calm but firm. You have embraced the gift I offered, now prove yourselves worthy. The crew froze, exchanging uneasy glances. Ryan stepped forward, speaking aloud, despite knowing Aetheris could hear his thoughts. What do you want from us, Aetheris? How do we prove ourselves? In response, the construct emitted a series of pulses, each one carrying a vision directly into their minds. They saw glimpses of civilizations long gone, worlds teeming with life, then collapsing under the weight of greed, war, and hubris. They witnessed moments of triumph and tragedy, lessons learned too late. And finally, they saw themselves aboard the Eclipse Voyager, faced with choices that would define their future. When the visions ended, Aetheris spoke again. Your species stands at a crossroads. Will you repeat the mistakes of those who came before, or will you rise above them? The choice is yours. Laura swallowed hard, visibly shaken by what she had seen. It's testing us, she whispered. Not just technically, but morally. Ryan nodded grimly. Aetheris isn't just judging whether we can use this power. It's judging whether we deserve it. Jake ran a hand through his hair, looking unusually somber. So what do? Play nice and hope it likes us? No, Ryan said firmly. We act with integrity. Every decision we make from here on out matters. We show Aetheris that humanity is capable of growth, of learning from our past. To demonstrate their commitment, Ryan ordered the crew to focus on using the upgrades for constructive purposes rather than experimentation. Under Laura's guidance, they began repairing damage to the nebula caused by centuries of neglect. Using the ship's newfound abilities, they stabilized collapsing energy fields and restored balance to areas disrupted by their earlier arrival. Jake grumbled about the workload, but threw himself into the task, channeling his frustration into practical solutions. If this is how we earn Aetheris's trust, fine, he muttered. But someone remind me why we signed up for cosmic janitor duty. Laura smiled faintly, her tone softening. Because it's the right thing to do. And maybe, just maybe, it's what humanity needs to become something greater. As they worked, the nebula responded subtly to their efforts. Swirling clouds of gas settled into calmer patterns and bursts of energy became less erratic. Even Aetheris seemed to take notice, its glow softening slightly as if pleased with their progress. But the peace was short-lived. One evening, as the crew gathered for a rare moment of rest, alarms blared suddenly throughout the ship. Emily bolted upright from her seat, her headset crackling with static. Captain, something's coming. A massive surge of energy heading straight for us. Ryan rushed to the viewport, his heart pounding as he scanned the horizon. In the distance, a wave of light and energy rippled outward from Aetheris, growing larger and brighter with each passing second. Brace for impact, he shouted. The crew scrambled to their stations, bracing themselves as the surge engulfed the Eclipse Voyager. For a moment, everything went white. The ship, the nebula, even the stars beyond vanished beneath the brilliance. When the light faded, the crew blinked in confusion, unsure what had just happened. What the hell was that? Jake demanded, his voice hoarse. Before anyone could answer, Aetheris's voice returned, louder and more commanding than before. You have proven resourceful, adaptable, and willing to sacrifice for the greater good, yet there remains one final trial, a test of unity. Ryan frowned, his instincts warning him of what might come next. Unity? What does that mean? The construct pulsed once, and the ship's systems flickered ominously. Then, without warning, the crew found themselves separated, transported to different parts of the nebula, alone and disoriented. Laura materialized in a field of shimmering light, her breath catching as she realized she was no longer aboard the ship. Jake appeared near a cluster of floating debris, his tools scattered around him. Ryan woke to find himself standing on a fragment of rock suspended in space, the distant glow of Aetheris visible on the horizon. Panic set in as they called out to one another, their voices lost in the vast emptiness. Emily's voice crackled weakly through their comms. "Captain, where are we?" Ryan gripped the edge of the rock beneath his feet, forcing himself to stay calm. "I don't know, but Aetheris said this was a test of unity. That means we need to work together, even if we can't see each other." One by one, the crew began working to find their way back to the ship. Laura used her knowledge of the nebula's energy patterns to navigate, while Jake rigged makeshift tools to repair damaged equipment he encountered along the way. Ryan coordinated their efforts remotely, guiding them toward a central point where the Eclipse Voyager waited. It wasn't easy. Each member faced challenges designed to test their resolve, moments of doubt, fear, and isolation that pushed them to their limits. But through determination and teamwork, they persevered, inching closer to reuniting with one another. As the Eclipse Voyager drifted silently in the nebula, the crew allowed themselves a brief respite, knowing that the journey ahead would be filled with challenges. But they also knew one thing for certain. Together, they were capable of achieving the impossible. The Eclipse Voyager floated quietly in the heart of the nebula, its newly upgraded systems humming softly as if in sync with the surrounding energy. The crew had reunited after their harrowing trial of unity, each member still processing the lessons they'd learned during their separation. Though physically exhausted, there was a newfound sense of purpose among them, a shared understanding that they were stronger together than apart. Captain Ryan Hayes stood on the bridge, staring out at the glowing construct of Aetheris. Its light pulsed rhythmically now, almost soothingly, as though acknowledging their success. He felt a mix of pride and humility, knowing they had earned this moment but also aware of how fragile their position remained. Aetheris hadn't fully revealed its intentions yet, and Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that another challenge might be waiting just around the corner. Dr. Laura Miller sat nearby, reviewing data from their recent efforts to repair parts of the nebula. Her expression was thoughtful, her mind racing with possibilities. "This is incredible," she murmured, half to herself. "Aetheris didn't just give us power. It gave us responsibility. Every action we take affects this place, maybe even the entire galaxy." Jake Turner leaned against a console, his usual sarcasm tempered by the weight of what they had endured. "Yeah, well, responsibility sounds great until it blows up in your face. What happens if we mess up again?" "Aetheris isn't exactly known for second chances." Laura glanced at him, her tone measured. "That's why we need to stay focused. We've been given tools to help, not destroy. If we use them wisely, we can make a real difference." Ryan turned to face his crew, his voice steady but firm. "She's right. This isn't just about survival anymore, it's about proving to Aetheris and to ourselves that humanity is ready to step into a bigger role. But that doesn't mean rushing blindly ahead. Every decision matters." Emily Dawson adjusted her headset, scanning for any signs of communication from Aetheris. "Speaking of decisions, do you think Aetheris will tell us more about its creators? About why this nebula is so important?" Ryan nodded slowly. "It might. But first, we need to earn that trust completely. For now, let's focus on stabilizing the area and learning everything we can about these upgrades." Over the next few days, the crew worked tirelessly to master the ship's divine mode capabilities. Jake spent hours tweaking the engines, experimenting with ways to harness the new propulsion system without overloading the core. Laura analyzed patterns in the nebula's energy, searching for clues about Aetheris's origins. Emily monitored communications, ensuring no unexpected threats emerged while also trying to decipher the cryptic signals occasionally emitted by the construct. Despite their progress, tensions lingered beneath the surface. Jake grew increasingly frustrated with the limitations they imposed on themselves, arguing that they weren't taking full advantage of the upgrades. We could do so much more, he insisted during one heated discussion. Why are we holding back when we have this kind of power? Ryan crossed his arms, his expression stern. Because power like this comes with consequences. Push too hard and we risk losing control, not just of the ship, but of ourselves. Jake threw up his hands. And doing nothing is better? You saw what happened when we tried to fix the nebula before. We barely scratched the surface. Laura stepped in, her tone calm but firm. He's not saying we should stop. He's saying we need to be careful. Think about it. Every time we push these limits, Aetheris watches, tests us. If we act recklessly, we'll lose its trust, and maybe our lives. Jake muttered under his breath but didn't argue further. Deep down, he knew they were right. But that didn't make it easier to accept. As the crew continued their work, Aetheris began communicating with them more frequently. Its messages were cryptic at first, filled with riddles and challenges designed to test their reasoning and ethics. One evening, as the crew gathered on the bridge, the construct sent a vision directly into their minds. A sprawling city floating amidst the stars, its towers gleaming with golden light. This was once my home, Aetheris explained. My creators built civilizations across the cosmos, spreading knowledge and prosperity wherever they went. But they grew arrogant, consumed by ambition. In their hubris, they created me, to protect what they had built. And when they fell, I became the guardian of their legacy. Ryan listened intently, his brow furrowing. Why show us this? What do you want us to understand? To warn you, Aetheris replied. Your species stands on the brink of greatness, but also destruction. Will you follow the path of my creators or forge a new one? The question hung heavy in the air, leaving the crew silent. Finally, Laura spoke up, her voice soft but determined. We're not perfect. Humanity has made mistakes, terrible ones. But we learn. We adapt. That's what makes us different. Aetheris pulsed faintly, its glow shifting slightly. Then prove it. Show me that your words are true. Determined to rise to the challenge, the crew devised a plan to demonstrate humanity's potential. Using the ship's upgraded systems, they began restoring sections of the nebula damaged by centuries of neglect. They stabilized collapsing energy fields, repaired ancient structures hidden within the gas clouds, and even revived dormant ecosystems that had long been forgotten. Jake worked alongside Laura, his skepticism slowly giving way to admiration as he saw the tangible results of their efforts. Okay, fine, he admitted reluctantly. Maybe this whole responsible power thing isn't such a bad idea after all. Laura smiled faintly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Told you. Meanwhile, Ryan coordinated their actions, ensuring every decision aligned with their goal of preserving the nebula's balance. Emily kept watch for any signs of danger, her sharp eyes catching fluctuations in the energy patterns before they became problems. Their hard work paid off. Slowly but surely, the nebula began to heal. Swirling clouds of gas settled into calmer formations, and bursts of energy became less erratic. Even Aetheris seemed to respond positively, its glow softening and its messages growing less confrontational. But, just as the crew began to feel a sense of accomplishment, an unexpected threat emerged. As they worked near the edge of the nebula, sensors detected a fleet of ships approaching rapidly. Their design was unfamiliar, sleek and angular, with weapons bristling along their hulls. Emily frowned, adjusting her headset. Captain, these ships aren't responding to hails. They're armed and heading straight for us. Ryan's jaw tightened as he studied the readings. Could they be scavengers, looking to exploit the nebula's resources? Or worse, Laura added grimly. They might know about the upgrades if word gets out about what we've done. Jake cursed under his breath, already moving toward the engineering bay. If they're looking for a fight, they're gonna regret it. Ryan held up a hand, stopping him. Not yet. Let's see what they want first. If we can avoid conflict, we will. The ships entered the nebula, their movements deliberate and aggressive. One of them broadcast a message, distorted, but clear enough to understand. Surrender your vessel and its technology, or be destroyed. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. They had faced countless challenges since arriving in the nebula, but this was different. These newcomers weren't interested in negotiation. They wanted domination. Ryan turned to his team, his voice resolute. We didn't come this far to give up now. Everyone prepare for evasive maneuvers. Jake, divert power to the shields. Laura, monitor their systems. If they try anything, we need to counter it. Jake nodded, already working furiously at his station. Got it. Shields online. And holding for now. Laura typed quickly, analyzing the enemy ship's energy signatures. Their weapons are powerful, but they're relying heavily on brute force. No finesse. We can outmaneuver them. Emily adjusted her headset, her voice steady despite the tension. I'm picking up something else, weaknesses in their formation. If we strike strategically, we might be able to disable them without destroying them. Ryan considered their options, weighing the risks. All right. Here's the plan. Use the nebula's environment to our advantage. Funnel them into tighter spaces where their size works against them. Then hit them with precision strikes to disable their engines. The crew sprang into action, their movements synchronized despite the chaos unfolding outside. The Eclipse Voyager darted through the swirling gas clouds, its enhanced propulsion system allowing it to evade attacks with ease. Jake rerouted energy to the shields, reinforcing them as blasts rocked the ship. Laura identified weak points in the enemy vessels, guiding Ryan's maneuvers with pinpoint accuracy. One by one, the hostile ships faltered, their engines disabled, or weapons knocked offline. The crew cheered quietly as each threat was neutralized, their confidence growing with every successful maneuver. Finally, only one ship remained, a larger vessel that appeared to be the flagship. It fired relentlessly, its weapons tearing through the nebula's delicate balance. Ryan gritted his teeth, knowing they couldn't afford to let it go. The Eclipse Voyager floated silently in the nebula, its glowing hull reflecting the soft, pulsating light of Aetheris. The crew had survived another trial, one that tested not only their strength, but also their resolve to use their newfound power responsibly. Yet as they gathered on the bridge to assess the aftermath of the battle, an uneasy tension lingered in the air. They had defended the nebula and earned Aetheris's cautious approval, but the encounter with the hostile fleet raised troubling questions about what lay beyond. Captain Ryan Hayes stood at the viewport, his gaze fixed on the distant construct of Aetheris. Its glow had dimmed slightly, as if it too was processing the events that had unfolded. Ryan's mind raced with thoughts of the future. Had their actions today marked humanity as protectors, or as a new kind of threat? He clenched his fists tightly, reminding himself that every choice they made mattered now more than ever. Dr. Laura Miller sat nearby, reviewing data from the skirmish. Her expression was thoughtful, her fingers flying over the console as she analyzed the energy signatures left behind by the fleeing ships. They weren't just scavengers, she said finally, breaking the silence. Their technology was advanced, too advanced for random raiders. Someone sent them here. Jake Turner leaned against a nearby wall, arms crossed and his usual smirk replaced by a rare look of seriousness. You're saying this wasn't a coincidence? That someone out there knows about us, and about the upgrades? Laura nodded, grimly. Exactly, and if word gets out about what we've done, about what this ship can do, we might attract more trouble. Emily Dawson adjusted her headset, listening intently for any lingering signals from the retreating fleet. You think they'll come back, or worse, spread the word? Ryan turned to face his team, his voice steady but firm. We can't control what others do, but we can control how we respond. If more threats come, we'll handle them the same way we handled this one, with precision and purpose. For now, though, our priority is securing the nebula and proving to Aetheris that we're worthy of its trust. Over the next several days, the crew worked tirelessly to reinforce the nebula's defenses, using the Eclipse Voyager's divine mode capabilities. They created barriers of energy around key areas, shielding them from potential intrusions. Jake spent hours fine-tuning the ship's weapons systems, ensuring they were ready for anything. While also developing non-lethal options to minimize collateral damage, Laura studied the patterns of energy within the nebula, searching for ways to integrate their efforts seamlessly into the environment. Emily monitored communications, scanning for any signs of approaching ships or hidden dangers. Despite their progress, doubts crept into their minds. Laura voiced her concerns during one evening meeting on the bridge. "We've done everything we can to protect this place, but is it enough? What happens if Aetheris decides we're still a risk, or, worse, what if those ships return with reinforcements?" Ryan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I don't have all the answers, but I do know this. We've proven ourselves so far, not just to Aetheris, but to each other. We've shown that we can adapt, learn, and grow. That's what matters." Jake snorted, though his tone lacked its usual sarcasm. "Yeah, well, growing doesn't mean much if we end up dead. Let's hope Aetheris feels the same way." As the crew continued their work, Aetheris began communicating with them more openly. Its messages were no longer cryptic riddles but direct conversations, probing their intentions and challenging their understanding of responsibility. One evening, as the crew gathered on the bridge, the construct emitted a pulse of light that filled the room, bathing everyone in its soft glow. "You have accomplished much," Aetheris said, its voice resonating in their minds. "But your journey is not yet complete. You seek knowledge of my creators and of yourselves. To grant you this, you must answer one final question." Ryan stepped forward, his expression calm but resolute. "Ask us." Aetheris pulsed faintly, its light shifting as if considering its words carefully. "Why do you explore? Why do you risk so much for answers that may elude you?" The question hung heavy in the air, leaving the crew silent. Finally, Laura spoke up, her voice soft but unwavering. "Because curiosity drives us. Because understanding is the first step toward growth. We explore not just to find answers, but to become better versions of ourselves." Jake added gruffly, "And because sitting around waiting for things to happen isn't really our style." Aetheris pulsed again, its tone almost amused. "Your species is young, but full of potential. In your flaws lies your greatest strength, the ability to learn from failure." With that, the construct emitted a surge of energy that enveloped the Eclipse Voyager. For a moment, everything went white. The ship, the nebula, even the stars, beyond vanished beneath the brilliance. When the light faded, the crew blinked in confusion, unsure what had just happened. "What was that?" Emily asked, her voice trembling slightly. Before anyone could answer, images began flooding their minds, visions of ancient civilizations, vast cities floating among the stars, and technologies so advanced they defied comprehension. They saw glimpses of Aetheris's creators, beings of light and energy who had once walked among the cosmos as gods. They witnessed moments of triumph and tragedy, lessons learned and forgotten. When the visions ended, the crew stared at one another, overwhelmed by what they had seen. Laura broke the silence, her voice filled with awe. That was incredible. We've been given access to their knowledge, to their legacy." Ryan nodded slowly, his chest tight with emotion. "Aetheris isn't just guarding this place. It's preserving its creator's memory, and now, it's sharing it with us." Jake let out a low whistle, shaking his head in disbelief. "So, does this mean we passed the test? We're officially part of the club now?" Aetheris's voice returned, softer but still commanding. "You have earned my trust, but remember, knowledge carries responsibility. Use what you have learned wisely, for the sake of both your species and the cosmos." In the days that followed, the crew began integrating the newfound knowledge into their mission. Laura worked tirelessly to decode the information, piecing together insights that could revolutionize humanity's understanding of science, medicine, and even philosophy. Jake used the data to enhance the ship's systems further, creating tools that would allow them to explore deeper regions of space safely. Emily monitored communications, ensuring their discoveries remained secure while also reaching out to Earth Command with carefully worded updates. Ryan reflected on their journey. Standing on the bridge as the nebula swirled peacefully outside, they had faced countless challenges, tests of courage, unity, and ethics, but they had emerged stronger for it. Humanity had taken its first steps toward becoming something greater, guided not by arrogance, but by humility and purpose. As the Eclipse Voyager prepared to depart the nebula, Aetheris pulsed brightly one last time. Farewell, travelers. Carry the legacy of my creators with pride, and remember, the stars are not just a destination, but a beginning. The crew exchanged quiet smiles, their bond unshakable after all they had endured. Ryan turned to them, his voice filled with quiet determination. This isn't the end, it's just the start. Together we've proven that humanity is capable of greatness. Now let's take what we've learned and show the universe what we're made of. With that, the Eclipse Voyager activated its upgraded propulsion system, vanishing into the depths of space. Behind them, the nebula shimmered softly, its secret safe, and its guardian watching, hopeful for the future. For the first time in history, humanity had earned a place among the stars. And as they ventured onward, the crew knew one thing for certain. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together with courage, wisdom, and unity.